how you been with your training? I know that you had quite the last few years have been, I don't want to say a challenge because that's an understatement, but maybe you want to elaborate for the listeners who may not know your story as of recent, and we can kind of transition from there.
Essentially, it was February of 19. I was about halfway into prep for I had like 7 shows planned for 19. My goal really was multi-pronged. I really wanted to do, classic and NPC and see if I could, see how well I could fare. I felt like I had pretty good chances in like the over 45, the national level. So I wanted to give it a shot. Obviously, until classic came around, it really wasn't realistic for a natural especially a heavyweight natural to be able to compete at a national level and do anything in open bodybuilding or whatever you want to call it. Anyways, I wanted to do that, but then also do some some IPE shows, maybe WNBF. I had like 7 or 8 shows kind of planned for the docket. It was early in the year, so it wasn't really a concrete. Started developing flu symptoms, essentially. I thought I had a nasty flu, and I thought that's really all it was. But essentially, first time around, I had flu-like symptoms, but I had this weird swelling on my left arm. I thought it was actually a bug bite, like a spider bite, because there was like a sore that I thought was a bug bite, and my arm was red. But that actually wasn't what I was worried about. It was just this horrendous fever. So I went to like a primary health. I thought they would just put me on antibiotics for the flu complications. I thought maybe I had bronchitis, whatever. But she had basically immediately sent me to the ER because she pointed out that the arm looked like it was infected, and there was like red streaks going towards my heart, which indicates possibility of blood infection, sepsis, all that fun stuff. I really didn't think that much of it, but I drove myself about 20 miles to St. Luke's, and by the time I got there, I barely could stay conscious, honestly. I got way worse than that 20, 30 minutes. And they admitted me, and they thought at first it was just the literally loose stuff and all that, but my white cells were almost zero, like lower than cancer patients that are on chemo. Like my white blood cell count was virtually non-existent. I think it was like a 70, and normal is above 1,500. Like you're probably sitting here with a 6,000 white blood cell count. My neutrophils were like under 100, well under 100. I don't remember the exact number. So they basically admitted me to the cancer ward because it's the only one that be protected, where they have certain policies to protect from infection, because any infection could have basically killed me at that point. They basically said they didn't know what the hell was going on. And I went home, and they said, in 2 to 3 weeks, maybe find a specialist, which again, I kind of figured it was a bite and I had a reaction and whatever. Well, 2 weeks passed, and basically I had flu-like symptoms again, but they came on super fast. And basically within Thursday, I literally lifted. Remember, I did a upper body lift. I literally drove myself home, and suddenly I remember telling my wife, man, I feel like I'm getting a fever again. Literally overnight, it got horrendous. My wife came home from work. She's a teacher, and basically saw me and said, we're going right to the ER. So we went to the ER, and my memory basically fades. I vaguely remember my son, who's 19 now, helping me to the car. And I vaguely remember that. I don't remember much after getting there, but essentially everything worsened fast. Initially, they just thought I was sick, right? But essentially they did a bunch of blood work. And in the interim of a few hours, I just started swelling in places. My legs started just swell. And I don't remember any of this. I don't have any recollection. I was probably in and out of consciousness, but I don't remember anything. Well, I remember a few little things, but not much. But basically, my legs started swelling, and over the next day, they started like removing chunks of my leg that was basically infected, but it was infected from the inside, right, not externally. And they removed chunks of my right leg. They removed a little piece of my left soleus, a little segment of my upper clavicular fiber. So when I do like progress, like pictures now, probably looks like a cut, but there's a little divot in my upper pec that was like the size of a sausage, the surgeon basically said. So my whole body was just infected from the inside. I went septic on a Saturday night, so literally one day in, well, a day and a half. I went septic and flatlined for for over 6 minutes. Normally at 4.5, they call it good. They call you, it's over and done. And basically, one of the doctors came in, and I had all the young residents. They were all second, third year residents that I pretty much had. And I got to know them all really well afterwards. But she basically came in and they were like, should we call it? And she was like, well, as healthy as it is, let's give it a shot. And they went another 2 minutes and resuscitated me. Well, they didn't resuscitate. I didn't come back conscious. They got me a heart rate again. And I stayed unconscious for 5 days. About 8 hours later, they removed my leg because they knew that was killing me. That basically the infection everywhere in my body was killing me, because your organs have to obviously move all that dead tissue. I had a 20-some thousand lactate level on that initial blood test, which basically means you should be dead, because normal is like 3,000. Your body is moving dead tissue. So your body only has limited capability to do that. So they removed my leg. I don't know if that's when they removed the chunk from my chest or calf, or if that was earlier. I really don't know, because I have over a week of no memory. So at that point, that was a Sunday morning. I didn't wake up till Thursday, I believe. I was supposed to wake up like Monday. So at that point, they figured I very well could have brain damage or no brain activity at all. My kidneys had stopped. I was on dialysis. They had completely shut down. My heart, which flatlined for 6 minutes, they were concerned of dead, possibly congestive heart failure or damaged heart in general. All my organs essentially had stopped. I was intubated. When I woke up, I couldn't breathe on my own. I thought when I woke up that I was going to be dead very soon. I don't know how you can know that or think that, because I had no knowledge of any of this happening, right? The last I knew, I just had a fever. To be like you having a fever and then you wake up a week later, I didn't know it was a week later. To me, it could have been 5 minutes, or it could have been 10 years. I had no knowledge of that. But I woke up pretty frantic, because I don't know that I knew that my leg was gone, or if I knew much of anything, but I had wires everywhere. Anyways, I was in there for 80 days, in and out of the ICU for 80 days. I had 25 surgeries roughly. My leg required surgery about every 3 days to wash out the dead tissue and to try to get it to heal, because it wasn't just an amputation like if somebody got in a car wreck. It was from a Clostridium septicum, which is a bacteria that isn't just flesh eating, it's muscle eating. So they had no known survivors in the national database, which means they didn't know how to treat it, because nobody made it to the hospital. Usually it kills you within 8 hours, and people never even make it. They get a flu-like symptoms, they're dead. They believed I probably survived simply because I had enough muscle to eat. Normally, you don't have much muscle, enough muscle. It eats it, your organs shut down, it's game over. And they believe I just simply had enough muscle to feed it.
So bodybuilding almost saved you at that point. Like the fact that you were so muscular, it's almost like kind of saved you in that moment, no?
My doctors unequivocally said that's exactly what saved me.
Holy smokes.
There's no doubt in their mind. But it also was it was a almost impossible situation, because they had no idea how to treat it.